Did this Harley Davidson motorcycle claim another rider? That's what we're going to look at today as I tell you the unfortunate accident that happened with a fellow rider, Ken Flores, out in California. He was actually a motorcycle mechanic that worked at Visalia Harley Davidson. Apologies if I'm totally messing up that name of the dealership. But he had an accident with a Tri Glide. And so today I want to talk about some of the known issues with Tri Glides in the past, but I also don't want to sensationalize what happened here. I want to basically tell you some of those issues and almost a PSA to riders that may be considering the switch from a two-wheel vehicle to a Tri Glide specifically. I've ridden a couple of different brands, the Ravacos and the Tri Glides, and there are some things that you want to consider if you transition from a motorcycle to a three-wheeled vehicle. So while this video will be based in fact, out of respect of course, and the fact that we don't have all the facts, there will be slight speculation here, but we're not going to go too far into that. I want to talk about previous issues and things you should expect. So anyways, we're going to cover this, and of course, I want to hear your opinion, man. Have you ridden or transitioned already to a trike? Maybe you're a younger rider and you like trikes. Whatever your opinion is, what are some of the major differences that you found between a motorcycle and a trike? Because they are a stark contrast from one another for sure. So let's go ahead and get into it. One of the first things that jumped out to me about this story is he's 34. He spent time in the military. He works at a Harley Davidson dealership. So I would assume that his level of expertise was probably very high. And so that's kind of what made me instantly think about those issues that we know happened with the Tri Glide a few years ago. Essentially, the RDR system would have glitches, and so you would get this unintentional braking. So you'd be going down the highway in a corner, whatever, and all of a sudden the vehicle would steer off the road. The story I covered maybe 6 months ago, this happened twice to a guy. He ended up winning a lawsuit with Harley Davidson over this exact issue. Now, stability issues also came up in some of these previous models. I think the 2019 was the one that was mostly affected by this. So again, I'm not going to make any assumptions about what happened to his motorcycle, but somebody that is experienced, and in this area where it happened, it's relatively flat, right? It's relatively open, pretty much a straight road, and I kind of looked right there at the intersection of where they said this happened. And if it's not one of those failures, I don't even know the year of this Tri Glide because he was actually going on a test ride. So I don't know the year of the vehicle, but if it's not one of these issues that was recalled, right, a few years ago, maybe it could have been a stability issue as well. What's interesting about this road is you actually have dirt on both sides of it. So it could be that this is simply like a trike issue. If it wasn't related to the recall, there is a chance that maybe there was a pothole. Maybe one tire was still on the road while another tire was off the road, which kind of forces it into a slide. It's almost like a skid in a way, because now you have two counteracting things going on. One tire has grip, one tire is severely imbalanced. There's so much weight in the rear on these things that it can cause an imbalance, any imperfection in the road. Again, one tire leaves the road, one stays on the road. Emergency braking is going to be a little bit different too because of that weight. You have those really wide tires, so it acts more like a car than it does a motorcycle. If a motorcycle leaves the road, you kind of know what you're dealing with. You're going to get some sensations in the handlebars that you're not necessarily going to like, but it's not going to become so unstable unless you do something like jerk the front brake or something like that. These things are easier said than done, by the way, so it's not like I'm saying, oh my God, I'm such a great rider. I could definitely handle these things off-road or on-road, you know, but these are just some of the differences between a motorcycle and a three-wheeled vehicle. And that's part of kind of the PSA of this video, because if you're switching to a trike, generally this is going to be for older riders. And the perception is that trikes are more stable, right? And that makes sense because there's no more balancing that you have to do. But I don't know how good training is with trikes, because it is wildly different than a motorcycle. You train and you kind of practice riding a motorcycle all these years, then you go to something that acts more like a car than it does an actual motorcycle. It steers like a car. There's no more counter steering. You're actually turning, right? Just like you would a wheel, except with handlebars. I rode a 14 Tri Glide. I guess I have footage of it somewhere. I don't think I ever did a review on it, but that thing was awful to drive. Now the newer ones, from what I hear from you guys that, when I've made previous videos about trikes, you say they are much easier to steer now. But I know that 14 Harley Tri Glide, if I'm an old person, if I'm older, right, I've lost some muscle and things like that, I don't want to be turning that thing. That thing absolutely sucked. Now when I've driven Ravacos, those were much smoother, much different looking too, but kind of like a Hirsch Tri Glide almost. That's kind of what they remind me of. But regardless, there's different levels. You have the Can-Am Spyders, right, where you have two wheels in the front, one wheel in the back. But the dynamic is just going to be different when you transition from that motorcycle to that three-wheeled vehicle, whatever brand it is. There's really no more ability to kind of swerve and miss potholes, right? You have two basically car tires in the rear. So you're going to be hitting all that. And you have Tri Glides that are 1,200 pounds or more. You got a lot of weight back there, which again, that unsprung weight, it can catch you off guard. The way you're turning, slow speeds is definitely a little bit harder. It's kind of like driving a four-wheeler almost. And braking is going to take longer too, right? Emergency braking is going to be different. So I think the biggest thing, maybe a focus of some of these Harley dealerships, especially because they're gonna be a big player in all of this, is focusing on training, right? If you have somebody older that comes in, it's not just selling the trike, but it's introducing them to basically a new way to ride. So definitely want to take this as a learning opportunity. And thoughts and prayers for Ken Flores's family, children, all of that. This is a tough situation, man. When you lose somebody and you know they were most likely very experienced, that's a really tough thing. But again, kind of bring these stories up from time to time to hopefully allow all of us to learn something from it. Let me know your opinion if you actually have ridden or transitioned to a Tri Glide or any other three-wheeled vehicle. Let me know how that's been for you. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.